There is a shift happening in your life. You may not see it yet, you may not feel it, but God's grace is about to take you to a new level. This isn't about striving harder, proving yourself, or having it all figured out. This is about stepping into what grace has already prepared for you. Grace is not something you can earn. It's not based on how many boxes you check or how perfect your record looks. It's not a reward for being flawless. It's a gift from a loving Father. And right now, that grace is about to elevate you to places you never imagined. You've been faithful. You've kept showing up. You've prayed, you've waited, and maybe at times you've wondered if God still sees you. Let me remind you, He hasn't forgotten you. In fact, He's been lining things up behind the scenes. Doors that were shut are about to swing wide open. Opportunities that passed you by are coming back around. And it won't be because of your resume, your reputation, or your resources. It will be because of God's grace. Sometimes in life, we try to map out every step. We plan, we prepare, we knock on doors, and we do everything we know to do. But then there are moments when God's grace steps in and does what we couldn't do on our own. Grace opens doors you didn't knock on. It puts you in places you never expected to be, connects you with people you never thought you'd meet, and accelerates you into blessings that seem far beyond your reach. That's the power of divine favor. It's not about effort. It's about alignment with the one who holds the keys. You may look at your life right now and see only closed doors. You may feel like you've been overlooked, underestimated, or passed by. But what you don't see is that grace is working behind the scenes. God is orchestrating divine appointments, preparing hearts, and making ways where there were none. When it's time for your promotion, your breakthrough, your opportunity, you won't need to force it. You won't even need to knock. Grace will open the door wide, and all you'll have to do is walk through it. There are blessings with your name on them, and you didn't even ask for them. Not because you don't care or didn't pray, but because God knows your heart, and He's been planning something better than you imagine. Sometimes the doors we knock on don't open because God has doors reserved that don't require knocking. They require trusting. Trusting that He's for you, trusting that He knows what's best, and trusting that grace never shows up late. Think about the story of Esther. She didn't campaign for the palace. She didn't network her way into royalty. She was a humble girl, chosen by grace and elevated by God's favor. One day she was living in obscurity, and the next she was queen. That's what happens when grace opens the door. It bypasses protocol, it silences your critics, and it positions you for purpose. What others work years to achieve, grace can bring in an instant. You may feel unqualified. You may not have the degree, the experience, the connections. But grace says, you don't need to qualify yourself. I've already qualified you. Grace breaks the rules for you. It lifts you above the natural limitations and places you into supernatural opportunities. It's not about who you know. It's about who knows you. And the Creator of the universe has already written your story with divine access included. So stop striving to make things happen in your own strength. Stop exhausting yourself trying to kick open doors that God never intended for you. The right door will open without stress, without striving, and without delay when it's in God's timing. That door might lead to a job you weren't even looking for, a healing you didn't expect, a relationship that restores what was broken, a breakthrough that makes up for lost time. And when grace opens that door, walk through it with confidence. Don't shrink back. Don't wonder if you're worthy. Grace doesn't wait for your perfection. It moves at the pace of God's promise. You're not where you are today just because of hard work. You're here because of favor. And the same favor that brought you this far will carry you further. Get ready, because grace is still unlocking things for you. It's opening doors you didn't even know existed. It's arranging connections, clearing obstacles, and preparing the way. When the moment comes, you'll look back and say, I didn't see it coming. I didn't knock, but God opened it anyway. And that's how you'll know it was grace. There's a kind of pressure in the world today that tells you if you're not grinding, striving, hustling every second, then you're falling behind. You see others climbing ladders, chasing success, and constantly working to prove their worth. And it can make you feel like you need to do the same just to keep up. But in God's kingdom, it doesn't work that way. You don't have to strive to earn what grace freely gives. You don't have to work your way into what God has already spoken over your life. The blessings that are coming your way aren't rewards for your performance. They're gifts flowing from His love. That doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. No, you still show up, stay faithful, walk in excellence. But there's a difference between striving and trusting. Striving is anxious. It says, if I don't make this happen, nothing will. Trusting is peaceful. It says, I'll do my part, but I know God is in control. Striving wears you out. Trusting gives you rest. And the truth is, some of the greatest things God will do in your life will happen not because you forced it, but because you received it. When you learn to stop striving and start receiving, you begin to walk in a different rhythm. You understand that your identity isn't based on your accomplishments, your resume, or your reputation. Your identity is rooted in who God says you are. You're loved, chosen, favored, and forgiven, not because you earned it, but because He gave it. That's grace. And when you stop trying to prove yourself to people and start accepting who you already are in Christ, you'll feel lighter, freer, and more confident in every area of your life. Sometimes we get caught in a cycle of performance, always trying to meet expectations, gain approval, or impress others. But the more we strive in our own strength, the more we end up exhausted and frustrated. God didn't call you to live that way. He called you to walk in His favor, to live from a place of rest, to trust that He's already gone before you. The promotion you've been chasing, the healing you've been praying for, the opportunity you've been working toward, those things will come not because you stressed your way into them, but because you trusted God to bring them in His perfect timing. Remember the story of Mary and Martha. Martha was busy striving, trying to make everything perfect for Jesus. But Mary sat at His feet and received. And Jesus said Mary chose the better thing. It wasn't that Martha's work was wrong, but her heart posture was. She was anxious and overwhelmed, while Mary was at peace. Sometimes the better choice is to stop running and start resting, to stop doing and start receiving. There are blessings with your name on them that are not going to come from effort, but from surrender. You'll see doors open not because you knocked the loudest, but because you stayed close to God. You'll watch relationships be restored, opportunities fall into place, provision come out of nowhere, all because you stopped striving and started receiving. This doesn't mean life will be perfect or that you won't have to show up and do your part, but it does mean the weight is not on your shoulder. The pressure is not on you to make everything happen. That's God's job. Your job is to believe, to stay in faith, to keep your heart aligned with His promises. When you live like that, you'll begin to notice something. Things come more naturally. What you used to chase now finds you. What you used to force now flows. So today, release the pressure. Let go of the stress. Stop striving and just receive. You are already approved, already chosen, already equipped. And when you live from that place, that's when grace flows freely, miracles happen, and you step into everything God has for you. There are moments in life when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. People may count you out, circumstances may look impossible, and the path forward seems blocked. But what you must remember is that God's grace is not limited by what's coming against you. In fact, grace shines the brightest in the face of opposition. When you trust Him, His grace will elevate you above every challenge, every critic, and every closed door. You may be surrounded by obstacles, but grace is lifting you higher, right in the middle of it. Opposition is not a sign that you're losing. Often, it's proof that you're stepping into something greater. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. If you're facing pressure, it's because you're carrying potential. But the beauty of God's grace is that it doesn't just help you survive the battle, it causes you to rise in the middle of it. While others are trying to push you down, God's hand is lifting you up. Grace doesn't need perfect conditions to operate. It works best when the odds are against you. Think about David. He wasn't the biggest, strongest, or most experienced, but grace took him from the fields to the palace. Grace empowered him to defeat a giant with nothing but a sling and a stone. Everyone else saw a shepherd boy. God saw a king. And through His grace, He elevated David above every voice that said he wasn't qualified. That same grace is working in your life right now. You may feel overlooked. You may be facing opposition at work, tension in your relationships, or challenges in your finances. But God's grace is greater than the struggle. It's not intimidated by what's trying to hold you back. It's not hindered by what you don't have. Grace is your advantage. It opens doors that no one can shut. It makes a way where there is no way, and it lifts you to places you never imagined. Sometimes the opposition isn't external, it's internal. The voice of insecurity, fear, guilt, or shame tries to keep you down. But grace speaks louder. Grace says you're still chosen. Grace says you're still qualified. Grace says, I know what you've been through, and I'm still lifting you. You don't have to be perfect to be elevated. You just have to be willing to trust God, to keep showing up, to keep walking by faith. When grace elevates you, no one can stop it. People may not like it, they may question it, but they can't undo it. That's the power of divine favor. It places you where others didn't expect you to be. It promotes you in the presence of your enemies. It blesses you while others are waiting for you to fall. God said He would prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies, not in their absence. That means He's going to bless you right in front of those who tried to block you, not to boast, but to show them who your God is. Let this be your reminder. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to defend yourself, prove yourself, or retaliate against the opposition. God's grace is your defender, your promoter, your vindicator. And when He lifts you, no one can pull you back down. Stay humble, stay faithful, stay in peace. What's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. Don't be discouraged by the resistance. It's just a sign that grace is taking you higher. Opposition may be loud, but elevation is already in motion. God sees your faithfulness. He hears your prayers, and He's working on your behalf. The same grace that raised Jesus from the grave is the grace that's raising you out of defeat, out of lack, out of limitation. You're not staying where you are. God's grace is elevating you above the opposition. Keep your eyes on Him, because your next level is already on the way. There are seasons in life where it feels like everything is moving slowly. You're doing your best, staying faithful, showing up every day, but the progress feels small and the breakthroughs feel far away. You pray, you believe, but things just don't seem to shift. If that's where you've been, get ready, because God is about to shift you into a season of acceleration. What took years before is going to happen in months. What looked like it would never change is going to turn around suddenly. You're coming into an acceleration season. God doesn't always move at the pace we expect. Sometimes He allows us to walk through seasons of preparation, of waiting, of growing. But then comes a moment when everything starts moving at once. This is what happens when God puts His supernatural wind behind your efforts. It's not just progress anymore, it's divine acceleration. In the natural, you may not see how it's possible. You may look at the numbers, the timelines, the facts, and think there's no way things could turn around that fast. But grace doesn't operate by human logic. Grace doesn't need a 5-year plan. God can do in one moment what would take you a lifetime to do on your own. He's not limited by time, by resources, or by what you see. He's the God of suddenlies. The God who says, behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Sometimes God holds things back, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He's been strengthening your character, building your faith, and teaching you to trust Him even when nothing seems to be moving. Because when acceleration comes, you have to be ready to carry the weight of the blessing. If it came too early, it could crush you. But now you're ready. Now you've been stretched, tested, refined. Now you've learned how to walk by faith and not by sight. You're not who you used to be. And because you've grown in the waiting, you're ready for what's coming. When acceleration hits your life, people may be surprised. They'll wonder how you went from overlooked to promoted, from broken to blessed, from surviving to thrive. But you'll know it wasn't you, it was God. It wasn't just your hard work or your talent. It was the breath of heaven pushing you forward. What others thought would take years to accomplish will come together quickly, because grace speeds things up. Not because you're trying to rush, but because God is fulfilling promises in His timing, and His timing is always perfect. There are dreams inside you that have felt dormant, promises that felt delayed, prayers that felt unanswered. But God is saying, I haven't forgotten. I've just been waiting for the right time, and that time is now. The season is shifting. The momentum is changing. You're about to see progress where there's been delay. You're about to gain ground quickly. That opportunity you thought you missed, it's circling back with greater impact. That healing you've been believing for, it's closer than ever. That breakthrough in your family, your finances, your calling, it's on the way, and it's coming fast. Don't let the slowness of the past season make you doubt the speed of this one. Just because it's been hard doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. Just because you haven't seen movement doesn't mean God hasn't been working. He's been setting the stage, and now He's ready to launch you into a new level, a new place, a new season. You're not stuck. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. This is your acceleration season. So get ready. Stay in faith. Keep showing up, because when God moves, He moves quickly. And what's about to unfold in your life will remind everyone, including you, that His timing is worth the wait. There are things in life that we just can't fix. No matter how hard we try, no matter how much we pray, plan, or push, some situations remain out of our control. Maybe it's a relationship that feels broken beyond repair, a mistake you wish you could undo, a health report that won't change, or a past that haunts you. But here's the truth. What you can't fix, God's grace covers. His grace is not limited by your ability. It steps in where your strength ends. It fills the gaps, mends the pieces, and makes whole what seems permanently shattered. God never asked you to fix everything. He never placed the weight of the world on your shoulders. He knows you're human. He knows there are things beyond your control, decisions you regret, moments you'd redo if you could. But even in those places, especially in those places, His grace is working. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but it's covering you. It's covering your flaws, your failures, your missteps, and even the things you never saw coming. Sometimes we feel like we have to earn God's favor, like we have to make everything right before He'll bless us. But grace doesn't work that way. Grace isn't a reward for the perfect, it's a gift for the surrendered. It reaches into the mess and says, I've got you. I'm not leaving you here. I'm covering this. Where shame tries to tell you you're disqualified, grace declares you're still chosen. Where guilt says it's too late, grace says it's never too late for a comeback. Think about Peter. He walked with Jesus, saw the miracles, was part of the inner circle, and yet when it mattered most, he denied even knowing Him. Not once, but 3 times. That's not something you can just fix. That's betrayal, failure, shame, all wrapped into one moment. But after the resurrection, what did Jesus do? He didn't scold Peter or remind him of his mistake. He restored him. He said, feed my sheep. In other words, you're still called. You're still useful. My grace has covered what you can't fix. And that's what He's saying to you. Maybe you've been trying to clean up the mess in your own strength, trying to make peace, trying to turn things around, and you've reached the end of yourself. Good. That's where grace begins. The enemy wants you stuck in regret, replaying your past, questioning your worth. But God's grace goes deeper than your worst day. It covers what happened. It restores what was lost. And it qualifies you even when others say you're disqualified. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to pretend like you're okay when you're not. You just have to lean into His grace. That means waking up each day and saying, God, I don't know how to fix this, but I trust You to cover it. I believe You're working even when I can't see it. I'm letting go of the pressure to perform and choosing to rest in Your promise. God's grace is not just about getting you to heaven. It's about helping you walk through life with peace and purpose. It's about knowing that even when things don't go your way, even when you fall short, you are still deeply loved. You are still chosen, and you are still covered. So stop striving to fix what's already been placed in God's hands. Stop letting the past define your value. You don't have to carry that burden anymore. His grace is bigger than the problem. It's stronger than the pain, and it's more than enough for whatever you're facing. Today, receive that grace. Let it wash over every broken place. Let it speak louder than your fears and failures. You may not be able to fix it, but the good news is you don't have to. God's grace already has. We live in a world that constantly measures us by our performance, from school to work, from social media to relationships. There's this pressure to always be achieving, always improving, always proving that we're good enough. And if we're not careful, that mindset can creep into our relationship with God. We start thinking that if we pray more, serve more, get everything just right, then maybe, just maybe, God will bless us, promote us, or love us a little more. But that's not how His kingdom works. Your next level is not based on your performance, it's based on His promise. God doesn't operate on a point system. He's not waiting for you to earn your breakthrough. His blessings aren't on hold until you reach some invisible standard of perfection. His love, His favor, His promises are based on who He is, not what you do. That means you don't have to perform your way into purpose. You just have to believe. Believe that He is faithful. Believe that He's already spoken something over your life that no failure, no delay, and no opposition can cancel. You are not being promoted because you're perfect. You're being promoted because He is good, and His word does not return void. When He says He'll take you higher, He means it. When He says you're chosen, He means it. When He says there's a hope and a future for you, He means it. Even when it doesn't feel like it, even when you don't see the results yet, that promise still stands. God has a history of using imperfect people to do incredible things. Moses doubted himself. David made mistakes. Peter denied Jesus. Paul had a past. But none of that disqualified them. Because God's call on your life is not about your resume. It's about His grace. It's about His ability to take the broken pieces of your story and build something beautiful. So stop disqualifying yourself based on your performance. You are not the one holding the pen. He is, and He's writing a story of redemption, restoration, and elevation. Some of the greatest shifts in your life will happen not because of your effort, but because of your alignment. When you align your heart with His word, when you walk by faith and not by sight, when you stay grounded in what He promised, things begin to change. Doors open, opportunities find you, resources are released, not because you worked harder, but because you stood on His promise and trusted His timing. That doesn't mean you don't give your best. Excellence still matters. Diligence is still a part of faith. But your identity is not in your performance, it's in His promise. And when you understand that, it changes how you carry yourself. You stop striving for approval and start living from a place of peace. You stop fearing failure and start walking boldly, knowing that even if you stumble, God's purpose for your life hasn't changed. Some of you have been beating yourselves up because you haven't met your own expectations. You've been comparing your journey to others, thinking maybe you missed your chance. But God is not finished with you. You're not behind. You're not too late. The promise is still alive. And the next level He's bringing you to is not based on what you did right or wrong. It's based on the word He already spoke over your life. So lift your head, shake off the shame, silence the voice that says you're not enough. You are not performing for a promotion. You are standing on a promise. And when God opens the door, no man can shut it. When God says it's time, nothing can stop it. Your performance might have limits, but His promise doesn't. And that's why your next level is already on the way.